Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. I have to think very carefully now when I say the name of this podcast, because even though it changed 2 months ago, I still have a really hard time. It's just my muscle memory is stuck on your relationship with. Anyway, hi. It's me, Melissa. I'm the host of this podcast. I am all over the place. Just kidding. I'm not. I'm just real. I'm just authentic. I want you guys to know that not everything is perfect. I was just having this conversation with someone who is a newer entrepreneur and is having major imposter syndrome. And I'm like, listen, I know when you look on social media or you listen to podcasts or even when you go to networking events, it seems like everybody else knows stuff that you don't know. Everybody else is further along than you. Everyone else is having more success than you. And everyone else knows that you are an imposter and that you suck and that you have no idea what the hell is going on. And I just want you to know that that is not actually true ever. And so sometimes I just let myself be my real messy self because I think it is helpful for other entrepreneurs to see that other successful entrepreneurs are also real and messy. So here we are. Am I going to see you later this week? If you're listening to this when the podcast comes out or shortly after, and you are not registered for this week's virtual speed networking event, I want you to go to the show notes right now and do that. It is on February 29th. That's a Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And it is going to be amazing. We already have, I think last time I checked, it was like 291 people signed up. Now, if you've done events like this, you know that doesn't mean there's going to be 291 people on the call, but there is going to be a lot. It's going to be amazing. You're going to meet some incredible people, make some great connections for your business. You're going to learn a little bit about how to network more effectively. You're going to get to hang out with me. I know there are several other guests who have been on the podcast who are going to be there, so it is going to be a good time. So be sure to register and tell your friends. All right, let's get to today's episode. This is a great episode. It is all about how to make sure that you don't have too much chaos in your life and that chaos does not derail your business and or your personal life. And it can happen faster than you think. 1 minute you think everything's under control. The next minute, everything has been derailed by chaos. Anyone who is a business owner, a mom, a caregiver of some type knows this is true. So today I'm interviewing Lisa Fisher. She is the founder and CEO of Lisa Fisher Associates, and she has used her talents as a business coach and an experienced corporate trainer, as well as her passion for working with others to help business and individuals identify their own vision of success and how to achieve it. She's a founding investor for Lansing Keller Williams Realty franchise, a specialist trainer for Lansing Community College, and serves on the Leadership Council for the Small Business Association of Michigan. Whew, she is a busy lady and manages to do all of that with minimal chaos. So she must know a little bit about what she's talking about. So I am excited for you guys to hear this episode, and be sure to tune in for my next interview episode with Caroline. She is going to talk about your relationship with reflection strategies, and this is perfect timing because reflection strategies, I have found, are a great way to help minimize the chaos in your life. So this is kind of a two-parter, so be sure to come back for Caroline's. I have a lot of demands of you today. Register for the speed networking event. Come back next time and listen to Caroline's. I got a lot that I want you to do, okay? I love you. It's for your own good. And here is my interview. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me today, Melissa.
Yeah, so excited to talk to you and have you share your wisdom with my listeners. But before we dive in, tell everybody a little bit about you and about your relationship with chaos.
So my name is Lisa Fisher. I do a lot of professional growth and development coaching and training with people all across the United States and Canada, primarily focusing on Michigan, where I'm from, and still being able to reach out as well, helping people be successful in achieving their goals. And what really caught my attention about talking about chaos is I have this unrealistic expectation of time. And because of my unrealistic expectation of time, I find myself in that chaos, that systems aren't working. I'm rushing from one thing to another. The structure has fallen apart. There's disorder of every kind. And I'm really trying to pull things back in together. And I remember a great teacher of mine, Gary Keller, wrote a book called The One Thing. And in that, he said, you have to get into a relationship with chaos. Because if you're not growing, there's no chaos. You should fear not being in chaos. But as you're growing and things are happening, you start losing track of that structure and that control of everything that you have going on. You can get it back there, but yeah, my unrealistic expectation of time has me doing coaching calls in the parking lot of another client.
Yeah, been
I
there.
didn't factor drive time. So if you
Yeah.
see me sitting in my truck, don't knock on the window because I'm having a conversation.
I'm doing important business in here, even if it doesn't look like it. So
Absolutely.
when we talk about chaos, I think people have a lot of different ideas maybe of what that means or what that looks like. But for today's conversation, when we're talking about chaos, what is that exactly?
For me, the definition I have is disorder, right? Chaos is disorder. And sometimes it's a little bit of confusion, again, depending on where it's going. But I would say if I were to describe it with one word, it would be that disorder, lack of control.
Yep. Where does chaos come from?
I think a lot of times when we think of where it comes from, and I'm using my perspective, is when we're trying to do too much, maybe taking on things that we're not 100% certain of what the outcomes are going to be. So there's that unpredictability a little bit. But when we're risk takers and we're stepping out and we're trying to do something new, it can feel chaotic. And again, with that growth, if I have systems in place that support 100 clients, and all of a sudden I find myself at 150 and my systems are breaking, it's creating a little bit of that anxiousness and how do I get back to where I feel more in control of the situation.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
those would be a few.
And I think too, sometimes what causes chaos for me is a lack of, I don't even know if planning is the right word, but lack of strategy maybe is the better way to put it, or lack of a strategic plan, which is not my specialty. I am just like, everyone jokes, they say my husband and I are a great match because I am the person that will just like run and jump off the cliff. And I'm like, I don't know, something will catch me. And he's the person who will stand on the side of the cliff and like, how far down do you think it is? And how long do you think it's going to take us to get down there? And what are we going to do if I slip? And are we going to stop halfway through and have a snack? Like he needs to think through all the things. And I'm just like, have already jumped. And that is me in business also. And I think that's sometimes what creates brilliance, and it's sometimes what creates chaos.
Well, and oftentimes out of chaos does come great ideas, new ways of doing things, trying something different. I jumped off that cliff and it's not going the way that I wanted to. So let me try plan B, because we do have to step out oftentimes on faith. I talk to a lot of business owners and I'm like, all right, you are successful flying by the seat of your pants. How much more successful would you be with that structure and that order and those systems and strategic planning, like you said? So I think that oftentimes people will think of chaos. I can't go home until I answer every email because if I don't tomorrow, I'm going to come into chaos. Again, that's being unrealistic on our time and our expectations and what we can do. So sometimes we have to leave it and come back to it and embrace it. And it becomes about a mindset, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Just embracing the mindset of there's going to be chaos because I'm growing, because I'm jumping off with it, a strategic plan. but yeah, I can come up with new ideas and I can be even more successful and more powerful to a
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes I am functioning well in chaos. Like things are still getting done. I'm still moving forward. We're still making money. Things are still good. But I think sometimes it's more exhausting to be functioning in chaos than it would be to be functioning with more order.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Because when I am operating in chaos, and yes, my coach works on that with me as well, but my mind is always going and it's that what's next and it's keeping moving. And at the end of the day, it's sitting down and I'm tired. I feel like I've just ran a marathon because it's go, go, go. And learning how to plan. I have a phrase of there's power in the pause, right? There's just power in the pause. And if I can take a moment and pause and catch my breath, I am more, I'm ready for the next launch. But not, if we don't step back a moment, we feel that exhaustion.
Yeah. Yeah. And it allows you to be so much more present in your life too. When I'm in
Mhm.
chaos, it's like I'm doing one thing, I'm here interviewing you, but I'm also thinking about what I need to do when I get off this interview and where I need to be tonight at 5:30. And I'm supposed to bring a snack. And do I have the snack? Right. And so it's like I'm still doing all the motions.
Yeah.
But then I get to the end of the day and it's like, have I ever truly been present in anything that I've done today?
Oh, that could be a whole topic in itself about being present at home when you're at home, being present at work when you're at work, in a conversation. That is truly a magnificent gift to be able to give somebody is that presence. And when we are constantly having our wheels turning, are we present? Are we 100% paying attention to what's in front of us?
Yeah.
And what are we missing out on by not being present?
Yeah.
So that's a huge point. And I think there's a lot of validity because also when we might, and I say we because I feel I operate in chaos quite a bit. And that's why I like to talk about it because I'm aspiring to get better at it. But what anxiousness and anxiety are people feeding off of us if that's not their natural state? You
Hmm.
talked about your husband being the planner and the organizer, and quite frankly, I'm married to one of those myself. But it's are we creating anxiousness in other people that can't wrap their minds around our chaos? So, what impact are we having on others?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. So, if people are listening to this podcast and they're like, I don't know if there is chaos in my life, I don't know if I'm living in chaos. What do you think are some signs that we might be living in chaos or having moments of chaos?
Feelings of anxiety, feeling a little bit stressed out, confusion. Um, are things not going in the order that you had predicted? Right. And are you uncertain of the outcomes?
Hmm.
Maybe you're planning an event and you feel totally out of control of what's going on. All of those are signs and symptoms of chaos that's happening around you. Um, Generally, when you think about when things are happening in order and it's that linear progression, you you don't feel that out of sorts, if you
Hmm.
will. You feel a little, again, you're in more control. You're not having as much anxiousness at the outcomes.
Hmm. Yeah. Not as exhausted at the end of the day,
Yeah.
able to be more present in your life.
And funneling your energy into the things that you want to create and the things that you're working on instead of, you know, that friction of running two ways uphill battle all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
exhausting.
Yeah. So it's interesting because in this conversation, I'm thinking like there are some ways it seems like chaos can be a good thing.
Mhm.
Like that it can inspire creativity. It can be motivating. It can, do it. It's not all bad. But what are some of the challenges that you see either in your own life or with clients that you work with
Mhm.
that are created, particularly with business owners, when they are operating in chaos?
Growth, the potential for growth because they can't see beyond the moment that they're in the chaotic moment. And
Mm.
that is definitely a negative impact. The freedom that a lot of business owners start their business for isn't there because they're married to their businesses because they don't have that structure. They're not operating in that. So now the freedom I want to work my own hours and be my own boss and be my own person, I'm married to my business because I
Yeah.
can't get beyond the chaos without the structure and the goals. So I would say those would be growth and freedom are two big things that we're giving up.
Yeah.
And also, if you're a family person, you're bringing that home with you. You're bringing that chaos into the household because it's hard to just leave it at work because you're still revved up when you get home of all the anxiousness of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I notice that sometimes when I go to bed at night, or I'll take a shower before I go to bed, and I'm still like so fired up in the shower, or I get in bed and I'm like, I'm not going to sleep. I'm still so fired up, and not fired up in a good way. Fired up and like I just spent my whole day feeling like I was two steps behind where I needed to be and trying to catch up. And I still haven't caught up. And now I'm in bed.
And your mind's going all night long, so you're not getting a good night's rest, which is another big, that has a major impact.
Yeah.
So, getting
Yeah.
good night's
I
rest.
apparently am much more familiar with chaos than I thought I was when this conversation
Me
started.
too. Like,
I
like,
was just
dang, this is coming too easy.
I was just telling the last woman that I was interviewing, she's a business attorney, and I said, every single time I record a podcast interview, about halfway through the interview, I start thinking, I need to hire this person. This is what, like episode 47, 50. Every single time I'm like, I need to hire this person. That's awesome. So, what
Just
are
listen to them over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the things if we're people who are listening to this are thinking like, okay, I hear myself in these two women talking and I recognize that there is more chaos in my life than I would like there to be. Are there little things that people can start doing right now to try to turn that around and have less chaos?
Absolutely. I would take a look at your systems and processes, whether you're in business or even if you're at home. Do you make a grocery list before you go to the store? Or are you just random picking things off the shelf? But really look at your systems and your processes and how do you fine tune those and leverage those to help you have more control over the situation. When working with business owners, right now we're in a situation where a lot of organizations are short staffed, right? We're understaffed, and that creates a bit of the chaos. But if we are leveraging our checklists and our systems to ensure things get done at the end of the day, people are not going home with 20 things left undone. We just kind of know the process and we work and we stay a little more focused on what we want to accomplish. I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be one very big thing. And the pause before you say yes to accepting a new client, before, whatever, step back for a moment. Where does this fit into your strategic plan? Where does it fit into your mission, vision, and values? Or are you just saying yes because you don't want to let somebody down, or you want the work, you don't want to miss out on the work? So
Mm-hmm.
step back and really evaluate how this additional work plays into your calendar and look at your calendar. Where do you have time for yourself? Where are you practicing self-care? Where are you practicing spending time outside of your business and focusing on the accomplishments that you want, big picture, just not in the moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one of the things that you said earlier in the interview too about mindset and just really looking at the stories that you're telling yourself and not in a judgmental way, but just like, oh, that's interesting. I am telling myself that I I'm constantly telling myself I'm not doing enough. You didn't do enough today, whatever that means, right? And so just noticing those stories or the stories that tell you you can't stop working until your inbox is clear or you can't go home until X, Y, and Z thing is done. And it's like we tell ourselves these stories and they sound and feel really true. So we should go with it. But taking that second to think, like, okay, this is the story I'm telling myself. Is this actually the truth or does it just feel true?
It's so funny. I was listening to a speaker, and I wish I could remember her name to give her credit for this, but it was on a podcast that I was listening to, and she said, "Tell yourself better stories."
Mm-hmm.
If I haven't done enough, those are all lies. Tell yourself better lies and different stories so that you can, you know, look at the brighter side of things or the more productive side of things and look at what your accomplishments are. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And I think the more you do it, the easier it gets too,
Mhm.
because when you leave with all of these emails that you haven't dealt with, and then you come back tomorrow and the emails are still there and the house hasn't burned down, now you know it's okay to stop working with emails that you haven't responded to.
Well, and I think a lot of that too is we can avoid chaos by setting expectations, clear expectations with our clients, with our employees, with our family members, even, just by having those clear expectations, we know where we stand from the beginning instead of having something come up in the middle of a transaction or you've worked for me for 3 months and now all of a sudden you don't think that's part of your job. If we have those expectations established up front, that will also minimize the amount of chaos. I'm never going to say eliminate chaos because I think that's an impossible task, but we
Mm-hmm.
can minimize some of that through operations, expectations,
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah. Clear expectations and clear boundaries. Because I think
Yes.
sometimes when we feel the most chaotic, it's because I am trying to have a conversation with my husband, but I'm also watching this show on TV, but I'm also checking my email. And then I get a DM and I have to answer that also. And it's like, that is chaos.
Mhm.
And so
That
if we
is.
have those clear boundaries of like, I don't even have my work email on my phone anymore on
Beautiful.
purpose.
Beautiful.
Right. So setting boundaries like that to where like this is not the time for work emails and they can't get to me also helps minimize that chaos.
Yeah. And we have 24/7 access to everything all the time with technology. But you know what? Maybe we shut our computers down at 6 o'clock at night and we're not jumping on them after that. My personal boundary for family members, I don't take phone calls after 9 o'clock at night,
Mm-hmm.
and client emails is a lot, or phone calls, it's a lot earlier in the day than that. But it's not just establishing with work, it's personal as well.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. Some of us over 40, dear listeners, remember what it was like to have to stay home because you were expecting a phone call, right? Or like, I got to get home by 5 because that's when Wheel of Fortune starts. Kids these days
so
will never understand.
I always said when I grew up, my phone was on the wall in the kitchen with a cord. I said, I am bound and determined one of these days to start leaving my cell phone in the kitchen and having it just stay there, turn the ringer on. So if it's important, I can hear the ring and go answer the phone. But yeah, stop carrying it around the house with me all day long like it's part of my skin.
Yeah, I know. I know. I kind of miss the days where when you left the house, no one knew where you were, no one could get a hold of you. You were just out doing your thing. That's a whole other episode.
I was talking to a women's group. I was facilitating an executive group, and I left my phone at home that day. And I'm just like, driving there and I'm getting anxious, right? Kind of thinking of the day's going to blow up on me if I don't have my phone. Chaos. I got there and I was telling the women that I almost turned around. It was going to make me late for this meeting. I said, I lost 1.5 pounds on my way to work today or on my way to this meeting, but I feel like 1,000 pounds have been lifted off my shoulders, not
Yes.
having that phone with me and the pressures of answering it when somebody calls or responding to a text or my emails. You gave me a great idea of detaching my email, but it's just again all of that instant gratification creates chaos, that
Yeah.
24/7 access.
Yeah, absolutely. So many good nuggets, so many things that I never even thought about when it comes to chaos. And now I feel like I need to implement some things. Calm down the
One,
brain a bit.
just one. Just pick one that you want to implement.
Yeah, well, that's what's nice about it, and that's what's good is that you don't like this doesn't require a whole overhaul of your life and your brain and your business and how it's operating. Any small tweaks or steps, even taking your email off your phone is going to be one more way that you can eliminate the chaos or decrease the
Yeah.
chaos.
Decrease, because we're never going to get rid of it. If we do, we should be scared because we're not growing. So
Right, right.
accept it, embrace it, wrap your mind around it, determine how you want to adapt and get in a relationship with chaos. Yeah, also be mindful of your systems, your processes, your boundaries.
Yeah, that's so good. So, Lisa, if people are listening to this, they want to connect with you further, they want to learn more about what you do, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. You can check out my website at lisafisherassociates.com, and that's all of my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn as well. Reach out there, and I would love to just make a connection and see if there's any questions I can answer to further help
Awesome.
solve your chaos.
Awesome. I will put the link for your website in the show notes. And I so appreciate you coming and sharing with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. This has been fun. And oh, I got to drink my own Kool-Aid. I got some things I got to work on.
Right? We got to go. We got things to do. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Have a fabulous day.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. Do you know a powerful woman who should be on this podcast? I am always looking for more guests. So if you have a suggestion, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone you've worked with, maybe it's someone you know and love, definitely shoot me an email, melissa@powerfulwomanrising.com. I love to meet new people and I would love to see if they are a good fit for the podcast. Also, if you love this podcast, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, share it with your friend, or even just send me a message and tell me that you love it. I'm on Instagram at Powerful Woman Rising, and I would love to hear from you. Have a great week.